This is the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Flyers, Eagles, Sixers, Phillies. With your hosts, the Grand Schwabini, Rube, and me, your technical director. Come on, Philly. Let's get down to a little bit of Philly love. The Sports Porch starts now. I am liking that introduction more and more.
I love your emphasis on Rube.
Yeah, you like that?
Rube.
I like when you say it starts now. It kind of feels like Brent Musburger. We're with you live.
Yeah, you're looking live.
Yes.
All right,
Like
everybody, welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. We are live right now all over the world on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And of course, we are also live on Radio PGH. That is our internet radio station. You can stream it live and listen to us. I always drop the link in the comments. You can see that right now. And you can follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get
Your freaking podcast.
That's right. I drop the show right after the show. Grab our YouTube channel at Philadelphia Sports Porch. So quite a week in Philadelphia sports. What we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the Birds. We're going to talk about the Sixers. We're going to talk about the Phillies. We're going to talk about the Flyers. We're going to do it in pages. Page 1, the trap game. Page 2, what do they need to do to get better, to beat the Steelers, because that's a big game coming up. And page 3, the Sixers, the big 3 game. So hopefully, Rube, you've adjusted that whiteboard. And page 4, Oh Soto, and some other Phillies news. And then we're going to finish up with the Flyers. They're skidding in spite of the fact that they have a budding superstar in Michkov in their lineup.
Mother Russia.
So let's jump right into this right now. Page 1, Birds survived the trap game. And what did I tell you guys?
You are right.
What did I tell you guys?
The trap game is real. I say you often speak of things that are just illusions.
Right.
But you were wrong in this case. The trap game became real. It was a trap game.
Yes.
They almost got trapped.
Yeah, and they almost lost on like the last play of the game.
They almost did, although it should be noted that player is terrible. And he dropped 3 passes over the course of the game. And if the Panthers had any sense at all, they would have just thrown it to Adam Thielen down the whole field.
That guy dropped 2 or 3 passes. Who is that?
Leggett.
The guy from South Carolina. He dropped 3 passes on that drive.
But I have to stop the show right now, and I have to embarrass you, Mark. Stop shaking. You're shaking the whole camera. You do it all. Are you nervous when you do the show?
I am not nervous.
You see his camera shaking? My monitor's shaking. Everything's shaking.
The only thing shaking here is your voice.
Look at you. You're shaking right now.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to settle down. Do you need a Xanax? I have Xanax.
Sure, give me a Xanax.
Anyway, so yeah, just try to keep your excitement to a minimum, bodily excitement.
Will do.
There you go,
boss.
All right, dude. So anyway, yes, that was. Let's go over some stats real quick, and then we can get into the good, bad, and the ugly if you guys want to. Hurts was 14 of 21 for 108 yards. Not a great passing day for him. He did have 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown to add to that total. Barkley on pace to break Eric Dickerson's record still. 20 carries for 124 yards. He didn't get a score. A.J. Brown led the Steelers in passing yardage.
That would be the Eagles.
The Eagles. I just finished watching the tape of the Steelers game. Yeah, sorry. A.J. Brown led the Eagles in passing receptions, 4 receptions for 43 yards. But that wasn't the big news. The big news is Devonta Smith, who
returned from his head injury.
Yeah, and caught a touchdown pass, and we actually have a highlight here for that. So why don't we play that?
Let's see.
It's Hurts. It's a blitz. It gets picked up. It's a throw. It's a touchdown. It's Devonta Smith. And the Eagles jump back out in front.
Well, I think they thought the ball was going underneath to A.J. Brown, and then it ends up going to Smith. Well, there goes A.J. Brown wide open underneath, but he wanted to stay with Smith. See, watch. There's the one-step strike, and then here's the corner from the inside. And lucky they didn't get OPI on.
So, that was a nice return, and that was the difference in the game.
That was his best throw of the game, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as they won by a touchdown.
Although AJ was wide open in the middle of the field.
Right.
Right. And in fact, thank you, Steve.
Nothing shaking on camera.
And in fact, there was 2 plays where AJ Brown was wide open for a touchdown. And so, of course, now, Rob, they're making a big deal out of why are they only passing for 100 yards or 150 yards or like some games like 200 yards. And all I have to say is, what the heck do you want Jalen Hurts to do? Everybody says no turnovers. So what does he do? Every game he gives you 2 touchdowns and no turnovers, and he throws less than 200 yards, and Barkley rushes for over 125 every game.
Yeah.
So what? Now that's not good enough. Yeah. I mean, what is it going to be that's going to be good enough for Jalen Hurts?
Verklempt.
Your point is accurate, and yet I find myself feeling a little nega Jalen Alfea, because it's just not consistent. There are guys wide open that are easy throws that an NFL quarterback should make, and he's either not making them or he's afraid to make a mistake. And I think because he's afraid to make a mistake and throw some into tight windows, he's being conservative, or he's trying to aim it instead of throw it. So listen, you can't argue with the record, but I also don't feel confident that if we need Jalen to win a game with his arm, that he can do that. At some point, somebody's going to load the box and they're going to stop the run. Is he going to be able to win, whether it's a regular season game or a critical playoff game against a good run defense? I don't know, like the Steelers. Is he going to be able to win with his arm? And what I see is a guy who's afraid to make mistakes and not making simple passes and easy reads. And that's what worries me. I have a hard time arguing with the record, but my eyes see what my eyes see. And that makes me nervous.
Well, I will say this. So my question for you is, but don't you think that that's a product of the Eagles talking to Jalen Hurts about not turning the ball over? I think that's why he's a little gun shy. That's why he holds it a little bit longer, because he's been talked to in his head about, don't make any mistakes. We're going to win the game so long as you don't give the ball to the other team. And that is kind of a problem. Like you said, against a better team, when you need to go to the air more often, it could become problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about this whole that was for Rob, if you want to text Rob directly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about this game, and of course, I read this headline on ESPN, and the first line is, the mood in the Eagles locker room was a bit more bleak than it should have been for a team riding a 9-game winning streak and celebrating a franchise rushing record. Look, you're not. No team has ever played their best game all 14 games when they had a 14-game season all the way up till now. And any team in the NFL is capable of winning at any time. We see it every year. There are teams that go 0-16. There might be a team that ends up going 0-17. It was not a surprise to me that the Eagles took a little bit of a step back in this game, because they were facing an opponent who is not as good as they are, and by leaps and bounds. It's a team that isn't even really in a rebuilding phase. It's kind of in disarray.
They're actually kind of getting better.
They look better. And
that's the thing. They're playing them late in the season. they have nothing to play for in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, which makes them go for every single fourth down.
Right, which means they're dangerous
right.
and they're going to take risks that normally teams may not take, although in today's NFL they take these risks all the time, but they're going to take more of those risks on a regular basis. They are getting better, and quite a few of them are playing for their careers and their contracts. And the Eagles, for better or for worse, I mean, it's not official, but they look to be pretty much in control of the NFC East now. They're going to be in the playoffs, and I think there's more good about this game than bad. And why don't we get to that right now? Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
I do have a little offshoot question on that.
Okay, go for it.
And this is something that everybody does: the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Why is it that we only choose one good thing to talk about and two bad things to talk about?
I don't know. That's just
because the movie wasn't called the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Right.
It really makes no sense, doesn't it? It just encourages Negadelphia.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Let's do the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Rube, let's start with you.
Well, I'm not going to go Negadelphia, so why don't we start with the good? Listen, the defense was very, very good again. And so I think after this body of work, we've got legitimate linebackers. We all worried about Nakobe Dean coming into the season. He looks good. Right place, reading the defense, leading. Bond's a beast. I didn't see us touch the quarter. I didn't see us. Did we have any sacks yesterday?
Yeah, Bond sacked the quarterback, and I think Bond had 3 tackles for a loss and led the team in tackles. I think he's in the top 4 in the league in tackles. And by the way, he's leading the Pro Bowl voting at the linebacker position.
Yeah, he had 1 sack, and you're correct, Schwaber, 3 tackles for loss.
Yeah, he's just been terrific. I you know who else had a good game yesterday? Slay. Slay had a good game yesterday. I think Slay had a good game, and CJGJ had a good game yesterday. So without Blankenship and without
open up was great.
Yeah. So that was a great hit to open up. So I would say let's start with good, and let's say the defense continues to ball out. And you got a good defense and a good running game. Great things can happen.
And I just basically ditto that.
Yeah, I mean, and I say the good is that they won.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. It was a slow start. They were behind. You were worried. You thought, oh my God, this is going to be the game that knocks them off track. They were able to keep their composure, continue to hand the ball to Barkley. No, he didn't have a touchdown, but he did rush for over 120 yards. That wears defenses down. Devontae Smith came back. He had a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. Hurts ran for 1. The defense held them to 16 points. Yes, it's a bad Carolina team, but the bigger picture here is that you can't allow this late in the season a team that was 3-9 to come into your house and lay an egg. And it looked like for a lot of the game that was a distinct possibility. And take away that last minute touchdown throw. He bobbled the ball. Had he held on to it, we'd be singing a much different song right now. But it didn't happen. So the good is, look, they won. They continued the streak. They got a big time game coming up this week.
You are correct, sir.
All right.
And I think the bat. I'm just going to call this I'm going to call this kind of analysis, just for the sake of having the conversation. So the last couple of weeks are 2 games they could have lost if the other team would have executed, right? We didn't talk about it after the Baltimore game, but if Tucker hits a field goal and an extra point and they don't lose all their momentum, I think Baltimore plays a different game, okay? I didn't say that last week. I forgot to. And this week, same thing. If they have a receiver that can actually catch the ball, we may be thinking about a different thing. And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of how we were winning the first half of last year. 10-1, 1-0.
Here we go.
No, listen. No. Stay with me here. I think those are what I want, and that's leading into my bad, is I just want to see a consistent game where we play well in all 4 quarters. And Mark and I were texting yesterday, and of course, as soon as I started complaining, they went on the Grand Schwabini on a surgical drive. And of course, I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to hear it now. But and it's true, and they can look really good on some drives. But damn it, why can't they start off the game that way? You just can't keep playing that type of ball as you get into the playoffs. So my bad is give me a consistent 4 quarters from the offense. The defense has shown they can do it.
Okay, Schwaber,
Yeah.
what the bad?
Okay, I'm going to say for my bad, prior to the ugly, because I got that locked down. My bad, I'm going to say AJ Brown. AJ's been kind of hit over the head a little bit in the media today. They asked him a question after a game. They said, what does the offense need to do to improve? And he said, passing. Now, I don't really think he was making a slight at Jalen Hurts. I think he was making a slight at let's throw the ball more. I think, being a diva wide receiver, he's probably getting a little tired of Saquon Barkley getting 25 to 30 carries a game. And, he's got to suffer through some games where he thinks he's the best receiver in the league. And he's, basically getting 4 catches for 40 yards a week the past couple weeks. Probably didn't help that he was missed on 2 potential touchdown throws this week. So I just think it wasn't the smartest thing to do. It wasn't the smartest thing to say. And that's kind of what they were talking about when you mentioned before, Chris, that it didn't seem like anybody was too happy after the win. Right. And I think that's, now I think that that'll be corrected. Now, what I'm hoping, and it remains to be seen if this will happen, but what I'm hoping is that they make a concerted effort to throw the crap out of the ball this week and go off on the Steelers. That's what I'm hoping. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that's what I'm hoping. Whereas if we had maybe won this game against Carolina 30-10, we might be sleepwalking into the Steelers and set up for a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the bad. It's hard for me to point out one specific bad. And the only reason for that is that they won the game and it looked like it was a struggle. And this is the kind of game where, they were on an 8-game winning streak and now they're on a 9-game win streak. And that's hard to sustain in the NFL, no matter how good you are and no matter who you're playing. So the bad is kind of that they, in a way, they barely won this game. And in that, they did rely on Barkley more because they basically wanted to run down Carolina's defense. I think at some point they decided, look, we're not playing well. We're playing okay, but we're not playing well. We're going to have to tire this team out. So they rely on Barkley. I don't think that A.J. Brown is necessarily coming from the point of, I want the ball more in a selfish sense. I think he's looking at 108 passing yards from Hurts and going, that's not going to get us over the hump when it comes to playoff time.
Right.
We're going to have to, we're going to have to throw the ball because you can rely on Barkley the whole time, but you're going to have to throw for 150, 200 plus yards in these games where you're playing teams with better defenses, and can score more points. So for me, the bad is that they weren't able to get the passing game going to the point where, where Hurts was throwing the ball over the middle more, going deep more. They just didn't feel like they had it. And maybe, the winning streak, that takes a lot out of you. I mean, they played some serious games coming into this, they played the Cowboys. They crushed them. They played the Commanders. They beat them pretty well. They beat the Rams well. They squeaked one out against the Ravens. And so you're tired and you come into this game thinking we should be winning, we should be able to roll over these guys. So they took a little breather. You know,
Mhm.
that's my bad, if there is a bad. I mean, I don't see a lot of. I know it goes completely against what everybody in Philadelphia media is saying and what a lot of the fans are saying, that overall this was a bad game. No, this was a game that kept your win streak alive, and instead of losing and having to soul search, you basically barely won.
Right.
But you were able to rely on your superstar, Barkley, to carry you through the game with some key catches by Devonta Smith coming back off an injury and win. And Hurts did not have to win the game for you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, he also contributed, 6 rushes for 70 yards?
Right, and a touchdown. So
one of those rushes was a huge one.
Right. And,
one of them, they're like the 30 or 40 yard one.
Right.
And listen, it's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Why shouldn't we be happy with a 9-game win streak? And it just comes down to what we started with, which is somebody at some point is going to stop the run. Do we have a Super Bowl quarterback?
Well, you're going to find that out. You're going to find that out next week. So we're going to flip the page over here.
Hey, before we flip the page,
we're ugly. Still an ugly.
Well, do you want to? Okay, Mark wants to do his ugly. I personally don't have an actual.
I'm sure Rube and my ugly is the same.
Go for it.
1, 2,
number
3.
1.
Jake Elliott.
Yeah. The most, according to Rube, the most important Eagle.
right. Back to the list. Yeah. For those of you.
No, listen to this. Seriously, this is insane. Like, if you think about how automatic Jake Elliott has been over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, it's really ridiculous how good he's been, right? And he was something like, 8 for 8 and over 50-yard field goals, with 2 minutes left to win games and stuff like that. Believe it or not, he is the first kicker in over 30 years to miss 5 straight 50-yard field goals.
Well,
in 30 years.
Okay, well, it was ugly, but they still won the game.
I blame Sirianni for that. Just like I said earlier in the season.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
You can't not give the guy opportunities to get in rhythm early in the season and expect him to start hitting 50-yarders in the middle of the season. So I'm gonna give him a pass, but man, it's scary if your kicker's not hitting field goals. There's something in the water.
By the way, one of the things I think we do the problem why the Philly sports media gets so upset with the Eagles is because every game is grilled on, can the team win the Super Bowl playing like this, right? Mm-hmm. Well, just a little reminder. In Super Bowl, whatever, I can't read Roman numerals, that the Eagles lost to the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts was 27 of 38 for 304, a touchdown and no interceptions, but a critical fumble. Patrick Mahomes, 182 passing yards, but no turnovers.
Okay, so
the whole, I mean, you have to admit, the no turnovers is the most important thing. It really is.
Well, yeah, it is, but I want to go to this Roman numeral thing.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your problem with
I have no interest or time to figure it out.
Really?
Well,
it wasn't just taught to you in school.
I don't know.
You went to a really nice school in a really nice suburb of Philadelphia.
I did, man.
They didn't feel it was necessary.
I think I was out sick that day.
Right.
Let's turn the damn page. But damn it, Jake, I need Jake to turn it around. Come on, Jake.
Let's turn the page. I agree. So, what do the Eagles need to do to do better to beat the Steelers? So, I'm a little bit of the show expert on this. The Steelers have the number 4 rushing defense. They have the number 19 passing defense, and overall they're 6th in the league. And like Mark likes to say on our Pittsburgh show, they're a splash play defense, and that they are. They will bend but not break, and then just when you think they're about to fail, there's an interception, there's a strip sack, or something like that. So what do they need to do better to beat the Eagles? Well, or to beat the Steelers? If you're comparing it to this game, you can't, because this game, they need to pass the ball better, I guess. The Steelers' weakness is really, and I know we're going to have an argument when we do our Pittsburgh show coming up. The Steelers' weakness, in my opinion, in the secondary is Joey Porter.
Right.
That's their weakness. He's not a shutdown.
You might not know this, but 2 weeks ago, Joey Porter got 6 penalties in one game.
Yeah. And in this game against Cleveland, he had a really unnecessary roughness penalty,
which was just stupid,
which was ridiculous. And he's very, very handsy, and it'll be really interesting. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in our other show, but it's worth talking about here. When they played the Bengals, they put him on T. Higgins for probably 80%, if not more, of the snaps. Right. They did not put him on Jamar Chase. The Steelers' goal was to take Chase out of the game, and they essentially did that until late in the game. Up until the fourth quarter, he had like 4 catches for 30 yards. And then he ended up scoring a touchdown. But what they did is they had Porter on Higgins, and Higgins ended up having a pretty big game. But they had 3 other guys kind of shadowing Chase.
Guys, the answer is easy here. When the Eagles and the Steelers play, it's usually like 16-15. It's going to be a low-scoring game because 2 defenses are good. And
no, the last time the Eagles blew them out.
Well, I thought they were usually pretty close games. Hey, technical director, can you look up the last few games that we've played against the Steelers in the regular season? But to me, I think Jake Elliott is going to be the answer here. I think Boswell, my fantasy kicker, the Steelers, my fantasy defense, have both been playing very well, at least according to fantasy standards. So if they're going to go kick 5 or 6 field goals, we better be ready to match that, or we better throw the hell out of the ball. So to me, it comes down to who's going to win that special teams battle, as I think who's going to win this game.
Yeah, I think
what's going on with this mic.
Yeah, I think we're losing you, just an internet connection on that. So let me just tell you, in 2022, the Eagles won 35-13. In 2020, the Steelers won 38-29. I'll go back to 2008. 2016, 34-3 Eagles. 2012, 16-14 Steelers, and 2008, 15-6 Eagles. Flops.
Give me AJ Brown's stats in 2022. I think he had 3 touchdowns in that game.
Okay, yeah, you're going to have to give me a second here while I find AJ Brown.
But here's my thought on it. I think look, number one, let's not just decide to take Saquon Barkley out of the game because the Steelers are the 4th best against the run. The idea with Saquon Barkley is nobody can stop him, right? So you got to still give him his healthy share of carries. But I do think that they should attack the Steelers down the field. I think they should have a heavy dose. There should be at least 6 or 7 targets each for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So I think if they do those things well, they'll have a decent result.
He had 6 catches in 2022. AJ Brown had 6 catches for 156 yards on 10 targets and 3 touchdowns.
Right. So you got to come out with the idea that you're going to feed AJ in this one. Now, granted, he's going to be playing against different players. I don't think, Minka was out there. Minka actually could have had an interception, but he misplayed it. But look, you got to take advantage of the Joey Porter matchup. You have to. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a pretty good player, but but he's not the level of cornerback that AJ Brown is receiver.
Yeah, and Steve chimes in. He says 3 or 4 players will determine who wins the battle for Pennsylvania. He says I'm wrong again, Chris. He's talking about JPJ on that one. The Eagles. Yeah, we can hear you fine. Eagles need
unstable.
Yeah, not a problem. Eagles need to run the hell out of the ball when Cam isn't in. They won't be able to run when Cam is in. Throw it deep, right on mark. That's how you do it, but you got to dodge the pass rush.
That is true. That's the most fearful thing in this game is Hurts has done a really good job of protecting the ball, but this is probably the best team they'll face in terms of teams that do strip sacks.
Yeah.
Because you basically have Highsmith, Watt, and Herbig are all strip sack guys. Maybe even Cam, you could throw him in there too.
Yeah. Well, he's just a disruptive force in the center of the line.
So they're really good at that. So it's going to be a tough game. I mean, I don't think I think Steve is right. I think it'll come down to 3 or 4 plays will determine the game. And, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that special teams, whoever plays better special teams wins this game. I heard the scores that you were rolling through earlier. I didn't realize that they were so lopsided, but my feeling is based on both defenses and how they play, I think it's going to be whoever wins the turnover battle and whoever wins the special teams battle. So we can't let Boswell out kick and outperform Elliott this week. Jake's going to have to show up. That's my prediction.
Yeah, and the Eagles are the Steelers are very, very good at containing quarterbacks that can run. Lamar Jackson does not play well against them at all. And they were going through a litany of quarterbacks that they've played against on a show I was watching. Unfortunately, I can't remember all of them. But one of the things the Steelers D does very well is contain quarterbacks that can run. And so what they're going to try to do is keep Hurts in the pocket and force him to throw the ball over the middle. And if you watch this past Steelers game that I just finished watching a couple hours ago on tape, they had Patrick Queen on Njoku for Cleveland, and he was step for step with him,
except on the touchdown by Njoku.
Well, except on the touchdown. Right. But what I'm saying is I think that's going to be their strategy. I think they're going to redo what they did in Cincinnati. They're going to have Porter on Devontae Smith, which I think is an advantage for the Eagles. And they're going to try to contain A.J. Brown because they're more worried about him. He's done more damage against them than any other receiver. So they're really going to have to get the ball. Hurts is going to have to get the ball out quick, and he's going to have to live in that pocket because of the threat of Herbig. Highsmith is back now, Watt. And what do you do with those 3 guys? They all have speed and power, and they all like to strip the ball.
And that's why you've got to run screens to Barkley or Gainwell and stop the pass rush.
Right. So I think it's going to be a slow start again. The Steelers historically start slow. The Arthur Smith offense is kind of a let's wait and see type of deal. They like to see what the defense is going to throw at them in the first quarter before they start to open it up. So as far as the Steelers are concerned, would not surprise me for them to start slow. As far as the Eagles are concerned, I know you guys talk all the time about, can we get off to a fast start? I think they kind of do the same thing. I think a lot of NFL teams, that first quarter that's the real chess match. What look are you going to give us? Is it matching up with the film that we've watched? And then what are the wrinkles that you've put in it after we've run through the first 10 scripted plays or whatever? So by the time you get in the second quarter, now you're making the adjustments and then you go into halftime. So I don't think the Eagles need to do anything better per se. I think they need to play the game they've been playing since Barkley started to really become the workhorse in that offense. I think they just need to play that game and play it well on offense.
The last thing I'll say, which does give me some concern, is that the Steelers need the game more than the Eagles. The Eagles have clinched the playoff berth. They're playing for the number 1 seed if they can catch Detroit. But I don't know. Does anybody really think they're going to catch Detroit? I don't know. Whereas the Steelers, they have to win to continue their path to win their division.
Yeah, and I think right now they're 10-3, and the Ravens are 8-5, and they're playing the Eagles, the Chiefs, somebody else, in the Bengals. I can't remember who the third one is. The Eagles.
Is it Buffalo?
Let me look it up. But I think the Steelers are I don't want to say they have the division wrapped because obviously they do
Philly,
not.
Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati.
That's it. Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah. They've got 4 huge games.
Well, that's the thing. Like if the Steelers don't beat the Eagles, then they could be looking at a tie for first place if Baltimore comes and wins the next week.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're playing the Chiefs. So they need it more than the Eagles do.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, this year I'm thinking the Steelers are going to beat the Chiefs, but that's a different show, different subject.
Hey,
Lemmer says not going to happen, my friends, as far as catching
the
Detroit.
Chiefs still keep getting it done, whether it's a doink field goal, whether the other team misses a field goal. It doesn't matter. They're 12-1. I think everybody needs to stop talking about how sucky they are. They're 12-1.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree.
All they do is win.
What about defense, guys? Let's do that and then move on. What about defense? What do they have to do better there?
Well, I mean, I will say this. One of the ways that you can play fairly well against the Eagles is if you do dink and dunk.
Right.
And actually, Russell Wilson's pretty good at the dink and dunk.
He is.
He's good at hitting the running back. He's good at hitting the tight end for 10 yards over the middle. So they will have the ability to do that. Now, there's also a question too if Pickens is going to play. He's going to. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he will. He will.
Is he hurt or are they just reprimanding him?
We don't know really what's going on the inside.
No,
I kind of thought that, to be honest.
No, I heard today he has a grade 2 sprain.
Yeah. So, it was a hamstring injury.
Right.
But what Tomlin said before this past game was that he was going to play. And when he got out on the field, what he realized was he was going to give him very limited snaps.
Right.
And the limited snaps he was going to get stood a greater chance of maybe having it make a worse injury. So they just they out of an abundance of caution, they held him out of the game because it was Cleveland and whatever. I tend to believe that this time because what they want is they want him out there against the Eagles. So I believe that he is going to play that game unless something happens. Steve says Pittsburgh only needs to beat Baltimore. Philly doesn't matter as much. Yeah, we know. We understand that. I think what they need to do is if Pickens is playing and he's at full strength, they have to keep Russell Wilson in the pocket. Same thing. When he gets out of the pocket, his ability to create it's still pretty special. He's got the most yards passing by a Steelers quarterback in history through his first 7 starts, and the highest quarterback rating it was 104 before this past game. It probably went down a little bit in this game, but he didn't turn the ball over. They had a fumble by Cordarrelle Patterson. That was it. So Wilson, when you watch him play, he looks like Russell Wilson from 5-6 years ago. He's still pretty mobile. He can still, if they need to get 8 yards and he has a crease, he's going to get 8 yards, but he's not going to run for those 20-yard runs that he used to run for.
Well, I think they need to get pressure on him.
Right.
They can't let him sit back there and pick you apart.
They need to give him happy feet. That's right. And if I was the Eagles, I would have Nakobe or Bond or somebody just shadow him because he can still get out and he can run. And to Chris's point, he can throw on the run.
Yep.
Don't give him any easy, go run for 10 to 15 yards up the middle to get some confidence. So
yeah, what they really have to watch out for is Freiermuth is now getting more and more into the game, and Freiermuth actually seems to be his outlet when he's running.
He does.
Most quarterbacks when they're running, they're not looking over the middle of the field; they're looking downfield to create something. Wilson is looking up the seam for Freiermuth.
Yeah.
So, that's tough. But that being said, the Eagles D is probably going to be the best defense that the Steelers have faced this year so far. So it's
healthy. If healthy. The other thing that kind of worries me is every time that CJ Gardner Johnson makes a tackle, he gets hurt. Every time Slay makes a tackle, he's either super excited jumping up or he's hurt. Blankenship's hurt. I'm a little nervous about the injuries piling up. So my thing for what the defense has to do is just stay healthy. If we can stay healthy, it's the number 1 defense in the league. Go play good defense.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to page 3.
All right, this is the Philadelphia Sports Porch. If you're watching us live right now, you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And of course, we come to you every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
We got 45 folks tuning in right now on the X.
On X, exactly.
Yeah, glad. Thank you for being here with us.
You can always follow the podcast if you want to catch up. The Sports Porch Philadelphia on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get Rube.
Your friggin' podcasts.
And we're trying to build our YouTube channel, so go to youtube.com at Philadelphia Sports Porch. Page 3. The big 3 game 2 equals a big win. So I'm assuming this refers to the fact that, switching over to the Sixers here, that Embiid, George, and Maxey were all playing together.
You are correct, sir.
And they won. So if you see Rob's whiteboard, it's 20 games without the big 3 and 2 games with them. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, Rube, who's a proud Philly fan living in Texas, predicted that this year there would be 25 or more games in which Embiid, George, and Maxey were not on the floor at the same time. And here we are, 20, how many games into the season? 22, and they've already hit 20 games. But they did get 3. They did have all 3 the other night, and they did win.
Hopefully a sign of things to come. So the other thing to just kind of looking at a few things here. So Embiid had a pretty big game. He had 31 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Maxey with the triple double, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 14 assists. George, just okay, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. You had some a nice, 11 points, 4 assists from the rookie Jared McCain, and a smattering of some other a success as well. The big thing was they had a huge second quarter. I think they outscored the Bulls something like 39-17 or something in the second quarter. So that was pretty exciting. But look, the bottom line is actually even without Embiid, Sixers have now won 4 of their last 5. So they're starting to at least put some games together here. The interesting thing is that, believe it or not, like there may be like 1 game out of a play-in spot, and I think there may be only like 5 or 6 games out of like being the 6th seed. So they just need to string some games together, but obviously it's all dependent on health. So the first part of this of the process here, no pun intended, is just to keep the big 3 healthy and string some games together, and then we'll worry about can they climb in the standings once they get to 500.
Yeah, I mean, they are 7-15 now, and they've won 4 out of their last 5. They have a nice couple-day break here, which is good, playing the Pacers on the 13th at 7 p.m.
Apparently,
Friday the 13th.
Apparently, they're going maybe a month without back-to-back games, which is big for Embiid.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but that's basically it for the Sixers. Anything you want to add there, Rube?
Wake me in May.
Of course. All right, so let's move on to page 4 on the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Schwaber always sets this up for us when he sends me notes.
Oh Soto,
and what exactly?
OMG,
huh?
That's a pretty sweet picture, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Juan Soto.
That's Juan Soto.
Like he crushed a ball in a Mets uniform.
Playing outfield for the New York Mets. That's not good.
No.
So that sucks. You can only hope that, it turns out to be like one of the worst decisions ever made by a baseball team, right? Like, he gets hurt and he never plays a full season.
That's a 50-50 with the Mets too.
Right. It is. The Mets are a place where players do go to die.
Yes. Just like the Jets. The Mets and the Jets.
So that sucks. But look, I mean, the bottom line is you have to keep things in perspective. I mean, you can't just sit there and say, Well, the Mets beat the Phillies last year and they added Juan Soto. So, oh my God, they're so much better. No, actually, the Phillies were better than the Mets last year. They just didn't hit in the playoffs. That's the reality. And look, I mean, we got our $700 million player. We just paid him $300 million 5 years ago.
Right.
So, the bottom line is that there's still great players on both teams. And anybody can win, and there's a whole off season to go. So I wouldn't freak out about it, but it is disappointing. It would have been nice if he just stayed in the American League. Rube, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you said it well. He's one player on a division rival. If the Phillies swing at strikes, I think we're going to be just fine. And top to bottom pitching rotation, we got a better pitching rotation. So if they want to go spend $700 gazillion on one player, have at it. But if one player beats you in the playoffs when it counts, then shame on us.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is classic. This is what the Mets do. And for some reason, they can't seem to win anything. And
it was kind of like when they sort of started not doing much of anything, they actually became better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Now they're back to, all right, let's spend all the money in the world. Let's make it happen.
Rube said it here first, by the way. I told you he was going to go to the Mets.
You were right. You were right.
Because that owner sees blood. He wants to show. He wants to spend his money. He wants all the New York fans to know that they're with him. And yeah, okay. That's one player.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised though that the Yankees would let that happen. That the Yankees wouldn't match that offer. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Well, and in other news, the Phillies did pick up a reliever, something that we've been harping on, and a lot of people have been harping on for, the last year and a half.
Now,
Closer.
As one who pays more attention to the American League.
Yep.
What do you have to say about this Jordan Romero?
Well, last year.
Last year is a throwout year because he was hurt. He tried pitching hurt. He pitched like in 10, 15 games, and that was it. So you really got to look at the last 3 years where he had like 36 saves a year or something, right?
And that's what I was going to. The last 2 years, 36 saves. The year previous, he had 23 saves. And his ERA was, in the low twos, except 2023, but it was still under 3. And as far as strikeout to walk ratio, I mean, it was, 73, 85 to 20 walks. I mean, he's a solid closer if he's healthy. He's solid.
Right.
He's what they need. Now, he was playing on a Toronto team that had high hopes. And he was kind of the bright spot. So I think it's a good signing. It's just he's got to play healthy, and he's used to having a pretty good lineup as well. So
here's the thing though, and I'd like to get your take, Rube. I hear a lot of talk on Philly radio. This is a really good signing.
I think it's good,
but I don't know. I mean, I sort of feel like, why are we getting some dude? Why can't we get the dude? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we go out and get that Mason dude from the Oakland A's who throws 103, who's not hurt? You know what I mean? I just want the best reliever. I don't want somebody who's good, but not the greatest ever. I mean, look, I'll be completely honest. I did not know who he was until today. Did you, Rube?
I had never heard of Jordan Romano once in my life.
Yeah. Well,
is that his name? Jordan Romano.
Yeah, Jordan Romano. Yeah. He was born in 1993. So
thanks for sharing.
So what do you think that means for like Hoffman and Estevez? Does that mean we're not going to sign them both?
Well, I think Estevez was gone no matter what. I think Hoffman. This probably means they don't want to spend a ton on Hoffman. So if somebody wants to pay Hoffman, he'll go. But if he wants to come back on a team-friendly deal, and apparently he loves Philadelphia because that's basically where he's had his success. then maybe they can keep him on a team-friendly deal. But I really like Hoffman. I mean, I know he sucked in the playoffs, and he's been really good past couple years.
Did we get rid of Hoffman? Am I reading this right?
Yep.
Is Hoffman gone?
This is only I don't know, because I was pulling up the info on Jordan Romano. It's only a 1-year contract. He's 31 years old. He was one of the best relief pitchers in the game, a 2.29 ERA in 202 thirds innings with 251 strikeouts and 75 walks over the prior 4 years. So, and they're paying him around $7.75 million this year. So,
no, Hoffman's just a free agent, right?
Yeah, there's free agents.
Okay.
Hoffman's a free agent, and so is Estevez. So,
but now that Juan Soto has signed, now everybody else will fall into place. You know, everybody waits for that to set the market, and now everybody else starts signing.
Yeah, Phils and Yanks now have money to sign Skeens in 2 years. Always. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to see Paul Skeens on the Yankees. Anyway, yes, I think it was a good signing. They have a real closer, so I think what this means is that they are without a doubt moving in the kind of direction that we want them to move.
All right. What's next on the docket?
Okay, on the Philadelphia Sports Porch Live, all over Facebook, YouTube, and X. And of course, I drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And you can follow us on YouTube at Philadelphia Sports Porch. Moving on, last subject of the evening. I mean, it's really exciting. The Flyers, we didn't.
Are you able to put those numbers up?
Yeah, I have the numbers.
Okay.
The Flyers, they're skidding a little bit, but Michkov looks great. And I'm going to put these numbers up right now on the screen there. Go ahead, Schwaber.
So what I decided to do was I took from last year and this year. Celebrini was the number 1 pick this year. Bedard was the number 1 pick last year. Now, remember, there was a lot of thought that it was, 50-50 Bedard versus Michkov. Michkov gets, whatever, thrown in a Russian prison or whatever happened to him. And so, Bedard then becomes the consensus, no doubt about it, number 1, because Michkov isn't going to play for 3 years. So anyway, this is what's going on so far. You got Michkov playing better than both these guys. You got Michkov 26 games, 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points, 0.96 points per game, and a +3, which for those of you who don't follow hockey basically means you score when when you're on the ice and the other team doesn't. Now, if you look at Bedard, 27 games, 5 goals. Can you say Adam Oates? 15 assists. And
their coach has been fired.
He's got 20 points. He's a .74 and he's a -13. Oh God. So when he's out there cherry picking for assists, the other team is just skating right by.
Yeah.
By.
Yep.
And then you got Celebrini, 18 games. Maybe he was a little nicked up this year. I think a really nice solid 8 goals there, 7 assists, 15 points. So a .83, he's doing okay. -5. I mean, it's going to happen when you're on the worst team in hockey, right? So, Michkov is just, tooting his horn. And he actually got into some fisticuffs last night as well.
He passes the eyeball test. I've had a chance to watch the majority of the games this year. Thank you to ESPN Plus. We need to get them to sponsor the show, Chris.
That would be great. Yep. Right on that, Rube.
Yeah, good work.
While I'm setting up the lighting, the graphics, the cameras, and everything else, I'll get right on that.
Well, why don't you prioritize that first?
Okay. Sounds like a manager talking there. Why don't you prioritize that?
Prioritize that. He passes the eyeball test. We were watching the game last night, and first of all, every time you hear the Flyers announcer say Michkov, Leslie Rubenstein under her breath goes Michkov, which is just it's very funny.
Is it cute? Do you consider it cute?
It is cute. It's her tribute to the Grand Schwabini.
There you go.
Michkov from Mother
Russia. Michkov.
But in all seriousness, you watch the game, and every time he's on the ice, good things happen. Behind the net, little flutter passes over people's stick. We just need more players like that because everybody else is not doing what they need to do to score goals. So
the Flitch gets his little dig in. Mitchie is good, but not Sid.
Yeah, not Sid good, but better than the average Flyer. Now, for those of you who are watching for the first time, Steve here is who we know as Hockey Jesus. He is, first of all, a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and he stars on our Pittsburgh show. And also, however, he is pretty much as close to an NHL expert as we're going to find out here in Fanland. Yeah,
he is, but
he has what I call I said this wrong.
Yes.
It's not Crosby derangement syndrome.
Yes,
it's Michkov derangement.
Right?
Syndrome.
Yeah, yes. Actually, like if we think about it, if we really want to call him Hockey Jesus, who we consider to be an expert in all things hockey,
yes,
and like this guy can name you the fourth liner on the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, he is that good.
Yeah.
But with his reluctance to anoint Michkov as the next great one, is he really Hockey Jesus?
Well,
I think it's up for debate.
Actually,
I think it's up for debate.
I'm going to take the other side of that only because it's early in Michkov's career.
Well, we know you. Everything's early. You got to prove everything to you. Blah, blah, blah.
I'm a Libra.
Blah.
I balance things. That's what I do. So I'm just saying that I clearly see the Michkov derangement syndrome. No question about it. But
with 16.3 seconds left against Utah, the rookie was tossed out of the game. On his way down the tunnel with blood on his chin from the scrap he was just involved in, he stopped and signed a water bottle for a fan. Tell me Philadelphia is not lucky to have the now 20-year-old Michkov.
You're not going to get an argument out of me, Rube. Not at all. I'm just saying that
Hockey Jesus to take his opinions and go elsewhere.
Yeah. Right now, Hockey Jesus can stand on the very short and small sample size we have.
Yeah.
I think that when you get 3/4 through the year, if he's still on this pace, and he's still definitely doing this, we're going to have to call a psychologist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's already in need of some therapy.
Well, I mean, he would admit that as readily as...
I mean, this is definitely causing him some concern.
Yeah. Should we have an intervention maybe on the next show?
We might have to think about it, a Michkov intervention.
Yeah. Rube, how are you with interventions? Are you okay with that?
I've never been to an intervention before. I'd be happy to join. Maybe we can do an on-air intervention on the Sports Porch one week.
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's do that. Maybe we'll do that.
We'll have to have him on for when there's a Flyers Penguins game.
Oh yeah.
Will there be any traveling to the link this weekend?
He said he's good.
No. Yeah.
He says he's good.
Yeah. I said he's good. Yeah. Just not good enough. He's not Sid good. That's what he's saying.
Right.
He's not Sid good. Not quite yet. And no, there's no traveling to the link this weekend. Although we did have a text string where I suggested, because I don't work this weekend, I said, hey, let's get together and watch let's watch the Steelers-Eagles game, because we got these two competing shows we got going on here. And usually we're in my studio in the bunker in Monroeville here. And so I said, anywhere is fine with me. I'll go wherever. Don't you know, Mark chimes in. He goes, I'll do it, but it's absolutely got to be at my place. So then Steve instantly went, I'm out.
I didn't want to go to Monroeville 2 nights in a row.
Well, that's why I said, I mean, you wouldn't go to Greenfield? You wouldn't go to Steve's?
I made the offer. I would feed. Look, who feeds you guys the best?
I do.
I do. Bunch of bull crap.
I
My wife made the freaking sweet and spicy meatballs.
Yeah.
I made you my famous nachos. Come on.
Thank you. The music plays.
We do the Trader Joe's snack time every week, and they complain on the Pittsburgh show. Actually, maybe we'll bring that to the Philly show too. See how everybody out there feels about Trader Joe's. All right, guys, listen. This has been the Sports Porch Philadelphia, coming to you live on Facebook, LinkedIn. Well, not LinkedIn this week. Facebook, YouTube, and X. Thanks for being here, X. We love it. And I'm going to drop the show right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get
your freaking podcasts.
And please feel free to follow us there, and as well on YouTube at the Philadelphia Sports Porch. For the Grand Schwabini, for Rube in Austin, Texas, I am your technical director, and I am out. Steve's still going at it.
He's still going.
All right, boys.
Yeah, Mitchie doesn't have a Lemieux on his line.
We'll see you next week.